Hello and welcome to my Generation 5 ranking video in the lead up to Legends Z-A. One thing I'll say before I start this video is that the tier list I found for Gen 5 was only for the shinies. I couldn't find one for the life of me that was literally just the Pokemon. That's why they all look a bit weird, the shiny forms. But it'll do the job. It will do the trick. So I'm not going to stress about it too much. The main thing is we've got all the Pokemon there, and that is something that we definitely do. Okay, now this one has loads of Pokemon. This one is like Gen 1 type in terms of like just how full of Pokemon it is, which I really appreciate. I mentioned it in the last video, but I think that having a whole new dex was probably how we should have gone forward. But obviously we didn't, and then we got Dexit and all that lot, so yeah. Anyway, great generation, mixed Pokemon. Like, there's definitely some that are good and some that are not so good. From the get-go, the starters I think are kind of mixed. Like, the actual starters aren't as iconic as the original trio, and as such will be in different ranks. I think the Tepig is like S rank. He's an awesome little pig. Snivy, he's alright. I think he's an A rank. I don't think he's an S rank. And Oshawott, I do not like the look of him. He goes in B. With the second stage evolution, I think Servine is better, but still not S rank. Pignite is a cool little boy. I don't think he's anywhere near as good as Tepig. We can go there. And what's his face over there? Trying to find where they are. Duo. Duo is a little bit better than Oshawott, but not amazingly. Right, now in terms of the final tier, right, Superior is an S rank. Superior is really good. It's a proper kind of, it's a big glow up. It's a big glow up for the Snivy series and the Snivy family. So he goes there. Embo is also S tier, and I would say above Superior. Like, I just find him a bit more interesting, but they're both like top quality, so yeah, nothing to be ashamed of. And I actually think that Samurott is going to go up a level. I think he's pretty cool, but I don't think he's an S rank. I think he's top of A. He's top of A, yeah. That's a good place to put him. Right, the original Rat. So, he's better than Ratstar. He's more interesting than Ratstar is Patra. I really like his sort of glowing eyes and stuff. So for that reason, he's definitely going to be higher than Ratshouse in B, I think. I think he's going to go in A. I'm going to put him pretty low down in A. Watchog? I don't know what it is about Watchog, but I really like Watchog. When I first played Gen 5 and saw Watchog, I was like, yeah, I want one of those bad boys on my team. He's cool, I like him. Would I place him in S rank? Probably not. But I'm going to place him highly in A at least. Let's place him below Samurott. It's still pretty good. Lillipup, I adore. I love Yorkshire Terriers. My grandma used to have one. So Lillipup is fantastic. Or is it more a Scottish dog? No, I think a Yorkshire Terrier. Anyways, it's cool, it doesn't care. I don't care. I mean, they look very Scottish. Right. I do not remember the second stage. He's not as good, but he's still kind of cool. I'm going to stick him about here. Is that right? And Stoutland, I do not like. I think they really overdid it with the design. He's too big. His like mustache is way too big. I don't know. It's just they ruined my boy. I'm going to place him in C. I can see that he does have some benefit. Like when I do use him, he can still be really useful. And he's a cool Pokemon to use. I just think from a design wise, they went from something that was like great and just gradually made it worse. Like the second stage, Herdier, I think. He's not ruined, he's just not as cute as Lillipup. But Stoutland, yeah, I don't like him. Purloin, I like Purloin. I like Purloin a lot. I like Purloin about as much as I like Lillipup. And I would say Leopard I like even more. I think that's one of the great Pokemon. It's a really sleek cat. More so than Persian, which is obviously its equivalent in the Kanto decks. But yeah. Cool. Right. Pansage. Pansia and Panpour, is it? These derpy little monkeys. Where do I place them? I think the first stage is alright. Yeah, I think... I don't like the thing on Panpour's head. I'm going to put Panpour in top of C. And I'm going to put the other two in low C. I think... maybe I like Pansia a little bit more. Oi. Not much of a muchness. And I think these are going to go D tier. These are awful. The Sorry, I'm trying to think of what these fucking things are called. The Simmies. Right, I think that one is going up here, that one's going up here, and you just look like you've got a massive cock on your head. I'm gonna put you there. Like he doesn't even make it to D. They're pretty awful. Like I'd never enjoy using them, and I think they're ugly as hell. I mean, to be fair, I went through a period where I thought I'm gonna try using these. You know, everyone hates them, and I like them. I like hated Pokemon. You know, trying to think it's not so bad. You know, stuff like Love Disc and stuff I like using. But damn, these monkeys, the elemental monkeys, it's not doing for me. Right, these psychic things. I suppose they're equivalent to the drowsies. What do they call them? Munna, I think, is the small one, and Mashuna? Mishuma? I do not remember the name of the big one. Sorry. I think Munna is a little bit boring in terms of design. I don't think he's terrible, but I think he's just kind of there. But I think the whatever he's called, I think he's pretty solid. I think he's an A rank design. Not really high in A, but I think he's decent enough. Right, the Pidgey of this one. See, I have got two of the young pheasants, but one's male, one's female. Whatever. Right, Pidove is just a pigeon. I quite like pigeons, but it's just a pigeon. I would say it's a little bit less interesting than Munna. The middle evolution, which I don't remember the name of, I think is a slightly better pigeon, but not fantastic. Oh, yes, the rubber monkeys. And Unpheasant. Unpheasant. You see, Unpheasant, I want to like, because it's like a fancy pigeon, but I don't know, I don't love it. I'm going to stick it at the top of B. I'm going to stick him at the top of B. I think I like the fancy one better than the normal one. I think the fancy one's the male one, right? I don't remember. But yeah, I want to like them more. They're not terrible, but I'd have a hard time sticking them in here. Right, Zeb Striker and the Pre-Evolution, which I don't remember because I never use. Right, Zeb Striker is definite S tier. And I would say I'll probably use a Leopard more than a Zeb Striker, but it's still pretty cool. Blitzel, I also think is... I think it's Ed Blitzel, right? I think the name just came to me and it sounds right. I'm gonna go with it. His name might not be Blitzel, but I'm gonna go with it. I'm gonna see my bottom best. He's pretty cool. Okay, oh. One of them's called Rock and Roller. The other two, I have no idea. Now, these are basically the equivalent of Geodude, but I think they're a bit more interesting. Even though I don't remember their name, I think they're pretty cool. I'm gonna place the first evolution because it's quite simple. I'm gonna place it in C, but high C. The second one, I'm gonna place a little bit better in B. It's not like amazing, but it's cool. And then I'm gonna stick the final evolution. Is Rock and Roller the first one? Rock and Roller sticks in my head, but I'm not sure which one it is. I'm gonna stick it right there. I'm gonna stick it in it. I think it gradually gets better. It never gets to an overwhelmingly great degree, but I think it's cool. I think it's cool. Right, Woobat and Zubat. Now, I kind of like these. I like them more than Zubat and Golbat, but I don't like them anywhere near as much as Golbat. I would say they're both eh. Who do I like more? I probably like Woobat more. Yeah, I'd say Woobat around there. And Swoobat, I think its design is neat, but I don't know, I don't dig it as much. Let's stick it there. It's still cool, it's still A rank, but not quite as high as the others. Excadrill. Excadrill is definitely an S rank Pokemon. That's without a doubt. And I would put it third, maybe. Drillbait is also really cool. I think it's like this bunch, these four there, I think they're just genuinely cute and well designed. Let's stick them in the cute sector of S ranking. Yeah, that seems about right. I'm hovering around it, but you know what? I think that's about right. How do you know the Chansey of this region? I don't love it, but it's not terrible. I think B is fine. It doesn't make me particularly excited. I'd probably get less excited than a pigeon, more excited than a monkey. That's fine. Audino's alright. I mean, it's not a terrible Pokemon. It's pretty useful, but yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those designs that doesn't really speak to me. I'd probably sooner use a Chansey than Audino. I don't remember where I ranked Chansey, to be honest. It's been such a long time ago, days ago. But yeah, I think B feels about right. Okay, Timber, whatever it's called, and Conkeldurr. Girder, I think. Yeah, because it's on the fucking Girder, of course he is. Yeah, Timber with a wood, and Girder with a girder. Yeah, that's right. Right, I think these are pretty cool. I will say that they're all pretty much A rank. I would say Conkeldurr comes out on top. Girder is pretty neat. He's not going to be that far behind. And I think you're pretty cool, but not super cool. I'm going to put you at bottom. But I mean, you're still in A rank, so bottom of A rank's nothing to be ashamed of. Don't worry about it, mate. Yeah, I think those are pretty neat. I think they're decent fighting types and they're visually more interesting. I wouldn't say they're iconic, but I'd say they're pretty damn good. Nevertheless. Okay, now, Seismitoad and the other two. Palpitoad and Seismitoad, Palpitoad and the other one. They're Pokemon that I like the look of, but I never seem to use it. I don't think I've ever played around with it in Gen 5, to be honest. I think I might have briefly used it in another generation where it's popped up, but I don't know. I don't know whether it's just a case of I just don't encounter it and so it never organically comes into my team, or whether I've just gone, nah, I'm not going for that. Like, I do like the look of them, but as a Pokemon, I couldn't say. Well, I think Seismitoad, from a visual standpoint, and this is the only thing I can base off of, is pretty decent. I'm going to place him below Swoobat, just because I know Swoobat I like using. And this one, I just don't know. I just don't use it. Palpitoad, I don't think he's as good. I think it's sort of a beer tier kind of Pokemon. I think he is that fine. And the little tadpole type thing. I think it's called like tadpole or something. I don't know. Whatever it's called. This thing I think is a C. I mean, it's just basically a tadpole but coloured. Gotta go higher than the monkeys. I think Piduf's cute, so I think that sticks it up there. Okay, we have the Hitmons of this generation. I know I'm comparing it to like Gen 1 Pokemon, but a lot of these Pokemon are basically just there's a direct connection to cancer, which I think is fine. I don't think it's a problem. People use it to criticise the game. I'm not. I think it's fine. Because I think they're legitimately different enough to justify being their own Pokemon, you know? Sock and Throw. I can't remember where I placed the Hitmons. I think I placed them in C, and I haven't got the places out there. I mean, they basically just look like some kind of dude in a karate outfit. That's basically all they are. There's a red dude in a karate outfit and a blue dude. They're not particularly interesting. I think it's Pokemon that are fine. I just won't get overexcited about them. I'm going to place them down here. Yeah, I like the stumpy dude a bit more than the lanky dude. I don't know, they're much of a muchness. Right, Leavenworth. Leavenworth's pretty cool. Like, I don't think it's a super interesting design. I don't think it's like an S-rank design, but I still think it's pretty good. And I think using it as a Pokemon as well is kind of cool as well. I like the design of Gerda more, so that'll get me more excited, but I think she deserves to be an A. As for these two, I think they're fine. I think Sewaddle's a small one. I think they're alright. I think placing them both in B feels about right. I'd say about there. And I've got to place you higher than the fucking monkeys. Yeah, we'll go. There's a little bit of distance between them. I think that's, again, I only place it a bit higher because it's a cocoon style Pokemon, even though it's for a grass type. And I think it's a bit more of an interesting cocoon than like Metapod and whatnot. So I think it deserves to be a little bit higher than some of them. Right, Scolipede is an S-rank Pokemon. That is a really cool bug type Pokemon. I'd say it goes about there. As for its pre-evolutions, I think Venipede is an A, he's a cutie, and Whirlipede. This is just like a cocoon, but I like that it's shaped like a wheel, and that's what makes me like it more than the original form. So I'm going to stick it here, slightly above, which is, I think, our first A-ranked cocoon. Would you believe it? I didn't think I'd be sticking any cocoons in A rank, but here we are. Whimsicott is another S rank Pokemon, superb. It's a really cool gimmick. It's got a Prankster, which I always enjoy in a Pokemon. I think it's a really neat little wood nymph type of Pokemon. Where would I put it? Maybe above Step Striker. Yeah, I think there's that right. As for Cottony, I think Cottony is not as interesting. It's a bit weird looking. I think it can go... I think it probably deserves to go in B. I know some people might not like that I've stuck it in B, but honestly Cottony is just a white blob of presumably cotton. So I'm just enjoying my nice brew again. Right, Petalil and Lillian. I think Petalil is fine. I think she deserves to go. Maybe about there. Lilligant is pretty cool. I don't think it's an S rank. I'd say it's more along the lines of leaving it. Which would I prefer to use? I would probably say leaving it. I'm gonna place here. I like those second stage evolutions a little bit more. I even say I like Woobat more. Good man. And the psychic dude. Yeah, that seems better. I don't hate Lilligant. I think I just prefer the others, but I still use the A-rank Pokemon. It's still pretty good. Basculin, on the other hand, is a fish. It's another Piranha type Pokemon, which we had in Gen 4 with Carvanha. Apart from this, doesn't evolve. I mean, this is better than Carvanha as a Pokemon, but only slightly. I mean, it's one of those one-stage Pokemon that you just don't really get interested in. Yeah, down here. The two forms are about the same. Couldn't care less which I got, to be honest, whether it's the red or the blue one. I mean, there's not much between them. Right. The Sand Crocodiles. So, Sandile and Crocodile is there in S, and Krokorok is going to be slightly below in B, but still pretty high. Yeah, I see about that actually. Right, where in S do we place him? He's awesome, but I like cats and I like Yorkshire Terriers, so those go ahead. And he's pretty awesome. I would place him about here. Still really high, but the others are just personal preference more than anything. Dalmanitan. He's cool, although I like the ice version of him better in Galar. I think he doesn't reach S rank, but he's still really cool. I'm going to stick on the top of A. And Darumaka is kind of cool. I don't love him, but I still think an A rank design, but I'm going to stick at the bottom of it. Yeah, I'm going to stick him at the bottom there. I don't think he deserves to be B. He is a good design. I just don't get like overly enthusiastic about him. Oh, we've got Zenmo Darumaka. I'm just going to stick that. I don't like Zenmo Darumaka. Let's just stick them together. Let's stick them together. In fact, what I'll do instead is, I'll stick you somewhere near the end, just so I'm not constantly seeing you. There we are. Okie dokie. Maractus. It's cool, but not super cool. I would probably use it, but I can't consider an S rank design. So I think high up in A, seems about right. Crustle, I think is a really cool design. Actually, I'm going to zoom out a little bit in a second. That's probably a little bit too much. There we go. Just enough where I'm not constantly scrolling as much. Crustle, I think, is an S rank design. I really like the look of this bug Pokemon. The Webble, I think, is an A rank, but not a fantastic A rank. I think it's fine for what it is. Crustle, I would say about here. I mean, it's not a Pokemon I would use a lot, but I do really like the design. But I think sticking on the lower end of S is probably about right. I think we've got some more S rank Pokemon coming up. Right, so we've got Scrafty, I think is S rank, and I think Sigilith is S rank, and I think Cofagrigus is also S rank. As for their prior evolutions, well, Yamask, I think is A. I think it's a really cool Pokemon. I don't think it's S rank, to be honest, but I think it deserves to go highly in A. Scrafty, I think, is also A, but his saggy arsehole doesn't bode well with me. I'm going to stick him lower down in A. Right, let's get these ones. I really like using Sigilith. I am not going to lie, that's going to go at the top. His Cofagrigus, though, is going to go right at the top. And Scrafty is going to go a little bit lower down, but still pretty high. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Very kind of gut feeling is that, but yeah, I think that's about right. Okay, Caracosta. He's a really cool little dude. I don't think he's an S rank, but I think the top of it. I don't often use him, but I would probably try to if I got a hold of one. Archeops, I would put in S. I would put him a bit higher than Crustle. I would put him about here. This seems about right. Right, now Caracosta's prior evolution, I think, is also high up in A, but not as high. And I think Archon is a really cool bird. I'm going to stick Archon in S. I think it's a really cool little dude. And I think there seems about right as well. Fuck. Let's see what's next. Trubbish and Garbodor. Garbodor is literal trash. And I know people often use that to criticize the Pokemon, saying it's garbage Pokemon and it's garbage. And I don't agree with that. I think Garbodor's fine. You've got to think, Muck was toxic waste, which was a big issue in Japan. And then Gen 5 is based on America, and what's more of an issue there is like loads of rubbish in the streets, so it makes sense that this is going to be the Muck comparative. It's a really ugly design though. I like using Garbodor, but his design isn't the best. I'm going to stick him in B. I think he's decent for what he is, and I think he's a decent idea. But there's no getting over the fact that having a Pokemon based off of a pile of garbage isn't going to be very appealing. I say that, but I think Trubbish, on the other hand, is going to be an S tier Pokemon. Because I think if you're going to make a rubbish based Pokemon, Trubbish is probably the best you're going to get. And I say that Trubbish is like top tier design for a garbage style Pokemon. I think they couldn't have done a better design. So I'm going to stick it in S. I'm not going to stick it highly in S because I don't exactly love it. But I think it's iconic for the series, and I think they did an excellent job. Garbodor doesn't look appealing, so that does go a lot lower. But I think Trubbish is really cool. Maybe controversial, but yeah. Okay, this one is going to be controversial. Zorua, I think, is a really cool little fox, and he can definitely go in S. But Zoroark, I never get to grips with. I think the gimmick of disguising itself as of another Pokemon is sort of cool, but its utility is rather limited, because you're probably going to hit it with a hard attack anyway. So what are you going to do really? I mean, it's going to get hit relatively hard, and that's going to break the illusion. So the only thing you really can do is bait a psychic attack, which isn't going to do any damage at all. And if you're baiting a psychic attack, what Pokemon are you going to be? I mean, are you going to be Poison? Which, I mean, like an Earthquake is probably more likely than Psychic. yeah, are you going to be fighting? Flying is probably going to be more common as a weakness for, for fighting. This isn't Gen 1 anymore. Psychics aren't all over the place, and they weren't in Gen 5. I think as a Pokemon, its ability is neat, but not all that useful. And as a Pokemon, I don't know, I just don't find myself using it. I will say that its design is pretty good, I just don't get enthusiastic about it like other people. So I'm going to stick him in A, but he's going to go lower down in A. It's going to be like middle of A. I know there's a lot of Zoroark fans who might not be happy about that. And I apologise, you know, as I say, like there's a Pokemon there for everyone. I mean, there's people that no doubt like the fucking Sinnies for some reason. But not me. And yeah, Zoroark just doesn't quite do it for me. Like, the design I'd say is decent, it's that kind of werewolf Pokemon, but as a Pokemon, I just don't get really enthusiastic about it. Right, Minccino and Cinccino I think are awesome. I think Minccino's design is not as good. So I would stick it in A, but not that low in it. I think it's still pretty good. Cinccino though, I think is really cool, and with Technician, I think it is. I think with Technician it gets really useful. Where do I place it? You know what, I'm quite happy with that position. I think it's a really useful Pokemon. I have used it in like competitive quite a lot. Gothitelle, Gothirita, and whatever the first stage is called. Gothitelle, I think is a cool design. I don't think it's an A rank design, but I would still probably use it a lot. Gothirita is decent, but I think lower down in A. And I think the first stage, I don't like it as much. I think it's a B rank Pokemon, but yeah, maybe around there. I think it's fine. Now, moving on to the other psychics, the Renucleus family. I really like this idea. You've got like this little ball thing that sort of expands and then expands with arms, and I think they're cool. I think the first two stages are great A tier design. I would say the first stage is cuter, so I'm going to put the second stage lower down. Well, I think even with this Panko Wood is a little bit higher. But I'm going to put this one in S. I think it's an awesome Pokemon and I do use it quite a fair bit. Where would I place it? I would probably place him about there. I think it's cool. I was using it a lot. Like, Excadrill is definitely my go-to guy, so I can't place him above that. Same with the others that are higher. But I would probably choose it over a Cinccino, because Cinccino is a normal type Pokemon, has kind of a limited moveset. I know Fur is my favourite Pokemon, but that's for more reasons than its utility. Right. Ducklet. I think Ducklet is really cute. I don't think it's an S-rank Pokemon, but I think it's really cute. I'm going to stick him up about there. Swanna, I want to like more as a Swan type Pokemon, but I don't. I think it's like Unpheasant. I think there's something about his design which I think is just a bit off. So I'm going to place him about here. Now, here we are going to get controversial. I personally think that the ice cream Pokemon, Vanillite, Vanillish, Vanillux, I think they are all S tier Pokemon. I think when I think of Gen 5, they're one of the Pokemon I think about, and I really enjoy using them. I think Vanillux, I use Vanillux quite a lot, even like in other Pokemon in generations. I'm going to place Vanillux very highly. Am I going to place it at the top? I think I am. I really like Vanillux. I really like Vanillux. I'm going to place him super high. Yeah, Vanillish. I think he's really cool. I think he goes back there. And Vanilla, I think he's cute, but not as good as the others. So I am separating them all. One's top, one's middle, one's bottom. But I think they're still S-rank Pokemon. I think they're superb. Right. Oh, this is why there's so many in here. We've got Dealing and a million different source books. Well, we've got 4 Dealings and 4 source books. Damn. I'm not putting more in there. I'm just going to put in the first version. I think they're fine. I think Dealing goes in A. I think that's a nice tier Pokemon. He's not going to go super highly, but I think he's solid. And Sourcebook, to be fair, I'm looking at the other seasons, and they're a bit more interesting. I'm going to place them in A, but I'm going to place one of the seasons in A. I'll place that one. And I'm going to place it near the bottom of A. I don't think they're fantastic. I think they could have looked a bit more interesting, but they just don't. Okay, I'm going to use this opportunity to stick these other forms right at the bottom. I was kind of thinking when I came into this, it was like there's 170 something Pokemon to rank. I was like, that seems like an awful lot. But then you've got all these forms. Are there any other forms I can get rid of? Just having a quick scan for forms. Yeah, you're a form. Okay. Actually, why are those two separate? They're two. They're both the same, right? Okay, cool. We'll stick those in. Anyway, moving on. Emolga. I love Emolga, which is probably my favourite Pikachu clone. And I like it a lot more than Pikachu. I think it's really useful as a Pokemon. Like, Static is really useful anyway for an electric type Pokemon, but Motor Drive is cool. Like, the good thing with Emolga is it can do some serious shit. Like, what I like doing with it is basically kind of switching into an electric type attack, which is quite easy to do. You've got a Gyarados on your team, then you're going to be asking for an electric type. Switch into Emolga, get that Motor Drive charge, and you're good to go. I'm going to stick him really highly. Cofagrigus is awesome, and Sigil is really awesome, but Emolga's really awesome. I'm going to stick him right in the middle. I can't decide whereabouts to place him, because I think in the middle seems about right. Yeah, he's really awesome. He's one of my favourite Pokemon from this generation, without a doubt. Now, Escavalier and whatever the other one's called. I think the first stage is really ugly. I don't think it's necessarily a bad design, so I'm going to stick it in here. I'll say it's more just that I think it's ugly, but I think Escavalier is a really cool looking Pokemon. I think it's like this kind of night bug. I think it deserves to be in S. I don't really use it that often, but I'll rank it just above Crustle. I think it is a cool design. I probably would use it more, but is it in that many generations? I mean, obviously until Exit and stuff, it was in every generation theoretically. But I imagine a lot of them were post-game. But like post-Exit, it's probably in one of the games. It has to be in one of the games, right? It has to be in Sword and Shield or Scarlet and Violet. I still remember seeing it. And that's probably why I haven't used it as much, because like in the newer generations, it isn't there. Maybe I might be wrong. And then the other ones, it was probably like post-game. So, yeah. Among Us. This is probably the Voltorb of this generation, I suppose. The grass-based Voltorb, because it disguises itself as a Pokeball. I think Among Us is cool to play with, but the design I don't like as much as Voltorb. I'm going to be controversial and stick it in B. I say I'm not too fond of the design. I probably like it more than the pigeons though. And Fungus, I would say I like a Fungus more than Fungus, but I don't think it deserves to go lower. I would stick it, let's stick it about there. That seems about right. Oh, here's more forms. They're basically just slightly different versions of it. I'm gonna do the male Frillish, and I'm gonna do the female Jellicent. I do like the male Jellicent more, but you know, just I've got a male of one and a female of the other. Right, I think these are really cool. I think Jellicent is like just how Trevenant was like an iconic grass ghost. I think Jellicent is the perfect water ghost, and I think that deserves to go super high. Maybe out there. He's really cool, or she's really cool, rather. Frillish, I don't like the design as much. I think it's fine, but not gonna go higher than a B. Alola should have been a Love Disc evolution. I don't love Alola, but it should have been a Love Disc evolution. I probably would have liked Love Disc less if this became an evolution, ironically, but I still think it should have been an evolution. It kind of looks the same. I mean, admittedly with Gen 5 it did its own thing, and that's why it's not, but yeah. Anyway, Alola I think is fine. I don't think the design is appealing, but I would probably use it. Let's stick it a little bit lower down. So one stage Pokemon is not amazingly interesting. Galvantula. I think Joltik is pretty cute. I think he deserves to go in A. I think that there. Galvantula is awesome, and it's one of those Pokemon from this generation that is kind of iconic. Used to use it a fair amount, now I don't, which means I would stick it around the middle. Stick it below Archops. Even though I don't use Archops that much, I probably would use it nowadays more than Galvantula. Ferrothorn. He's cool. I think the problem with Ferrothorn is that in the casual playthrough, he's probably not going to be as useful. He's a bit like what's his face from Gen 2. Now I've got Ferrothorn in my head, I can't think of the other one. You know the one that's... You know the one. Yeah, so he's super defensive. He's super defensive, and I think it makes it less likely I would use him in a playthrough, but I do like the design, and I would use him competitively. I'm going to place him about in the middle of A. Ferroseed. I think he's really cool. I mean, it's basically just a seed, but he's a cool seed. I'm going to place him about here. Yeah, that seems about right. Right, we have another iconic Pokemon from this generation, Klinklang. Klinklang is definite S, and I like the idea of going from Klinklang to Klinklang. But these cogs I can place in S. I'm going to place Kling there. They're both basically the same, but one's just a little bit bigger. I mean, for lack of innovation, I'll stick it one stage below. And then, yeah, Klinklang is going to be relatively high. I think about that. Yeah, Crocodile's a bit more exciting, but it's still S rank. Right, now we've got this. I would say Tadpole, but I think the Tadpole was the other one, right? Where did I place the other Tadpole? There he is. I think this is less exciting because this is literally Jizz. Is Jizz better than a monkey? You know what? I think Jizz might be worse than a monkey. I'm going to place it at the bottom. Actually, I'm going to place it in D because it is literally just Jizz. But it's still better than the Simmies. Jizz is better than the Simmies. Yeah. Electric though, electric, you, my friend, are going directly to S. This is another banger from this generation. This generation is very mixed. There's some like high up, there's some mid, and then there's some lower down. I think this is definitely the most mix I've had so far. That includes Generation 3. Electros is really cool. I'm going to place him about here. He would go higher, but there's just so many other better Pokemon. Oh! Oh no, that's not Electros. Just scroll down. Electros is this fella. There's a middle stage? I got confused there. Oh yeah, that's the middle stage. I think the middle stage is pretty cool. I was thinking in terms of like utility and how much I use, that's why I placed it in F. This middle stage though, I'm going to stick it high up in A. I'm going to stick it in the middle of the two clings. Just because I'm not sure whether to place it above or below, so I'll stick it in the middle. That seems like a nice way to do it. Yeah, sorry if I've offended people by forgetting that Electros had a middle stage, but there you go. Right, Beheeyem. I really like Beheeyem. I don't think it's an S-rank design, but I'm going to stick it right at the top of A. His primary stage, I think, is fine. I don't think it's an A rank, but I'll stick it at the top of B. Okay, now we get into some great Pokemon again. Chandelure is basically the fire equivalent of Jellicent. I think it's better though, and I would say it goes about... I really like Sigilyph. I really like Sigilyph, so I'm going to stick Sigilyph above it. But I think that's still a respectable place. There's a lot of bangers from this generation, so I don't think that's anything to be too ashamed of. I think Lampen is decent enough to deserve a place in A, and reasonably high. And I think Litwick is an S rank design. I think just being a candle, I mean, going from a candle to a lamp to a chandelier is a really cool progression. I think Lampen looks a bit weird, so I don't like it as much, otherwise both would be S. But I think Litwick and Chandelier are definite S's. I think about there. I'll stick in with Vanillite. I think it's a banger. I'm going to zoom out again. Sorry, this is getting small, but there's a lot of Pokemon to cover. It'll be fine. Right. Haxorus is a definite S tier. I'll deal with him later though. I think his prior evolutions are pretty good, but they don't get there. They've got that weird thing through the nose before it turns into those huge tusks, and it looks a bit weird in the first stage, so I'm going to place him lower down. In the second stage, it looks kind of interesting, but not amazingly, so I'm going to stick him there. But Haxorus, my bad boy, I'm going to stick you pretty high. I'll stick you about there. I really like Leopard, but Haxorus is a beast. So I think that seems about right. Beartic. I think Beartic is a pretty cool Pokemon. I think I'm going to stick him in A. I'm going to stick him relatively highly, but not amazingly highly. No, I think the design is better for Zoroark. Cubchoo though, I don't like the snot. I really don't like the snot. I'm going to stick him in C, but top of C. He's cute, but the snot just drives me nuts. I don't like it. Cryogonal. Sorry, I just immediately went to Cryogonal. It seems like there's been a cut here, but there's been no cut. I'm literally just going straight into it. Cryogonal, I really dig the design. I don't think he's that useful. I'm going to stick him about here. I really like the idea that he's basically like a metal snowflake, but he's not fantastic. Right. Shelmet. Shelmet is okay. He's not quite the other dude, but he still has that knight kind of look 'cause he's wearing a helmet. I think it's a B tier. I don't know, I don't get overly excited about it. But he's fine. Excelgo, he can do some cool things. He can do some cool things, but he's not amazingly good as a bug Pokemon. Where am I gonna put him? He does look cool as a ninja though. Yeah, he's supposed to look like a ninja. In that respect, he does. I'm gonna stick him in A. I say I like using him, and his design is cool, but I don't think it quite deserves to be super high. Stunfisk though! Stunfisk is a derpy little fucker, and I love him! He can go in S. I like using him as well, so he's gonna go highly, but maybe not as highly as some of the others. I'll stick him near the middle of S. Still respectable though. I would say there's a lot of bangers from this generation, so that's nothing to be afraid of. Right, Mian Shao I think is really cool, and he deserves to go up in A but not S. His prior evolution is less cool. I don't like the look of him, but he's fine. He can go at the top of B. Druddigan, he's very unique, but he does look like he's made of Lego. I'm going to stick him top of B. He's neat, and I would use him. Now I'm going to stick him in A, because I would use him. And the design is unique, but the design doesn't click with me. I'm going to stick him here with Sourcebook. Yeah. Right, Golurk. He is a certified banger, as is Golett. In fact, so is Pawniard and B Sharp. And all four of these deserve to be in S. So let's stick them directly up there. It'd be weird seeing like Pawniard and B Sharp in blue, but never mind. I think B Sharp is a certified banger. I think here, yeah. Golurk is another certified banger, I think here. And these two are really cool design and cute. I'm going to place them pretty highly. I think here seems about right for him, and for you, I reckon here. They're both pretty high, so much so that they can get into like the final stage Pokemon and go beyond that, because I think they're just so cool. Like, even just using this Pokemon, I don't mind, even though they're like first stages, because they're so awesome. Buffalon, I really like the design. It's like Tauros with an afro. I am not going to place him in S, but I think he deserves to be top of there. Yeah, I do really like using him. I wouldn't say S rank, but I think he's cool. These birds. We've got Mandibuzz and Bravery. I like the idea of both, because one's like Eagle, I suppose, and the other's Vulture. I do like Mandibuzz, I just don't use it that often. I'm going to place Mandibuzz, this may be controversial, I'm going to place him in S. I think as a Vulture he's really well designed. I kind of want to use him more, but I don't, because Vullaby doesn't look great. It's not necessarily a bad design, but it's just weird to me. So I think there seems about right. Ruffler, I think I have the same issue with Ruffler and Bravery. Like, Ruffler I'm not too fond of. I like it more. I like it more than Vullaby, but not that much more. However, even though Vullaby is worse than Ruffler, I think that Bravery is worse than Mandibuzz. It's still going to be an A rank. I think he's a pretty solid design. I'm just not going to stick him in S. I think he's decent though, and I would use him if it wasn't for the fact that I really don't like the first stage. I don't get overly excited about them. That makes sense. Alright, Heatmore. Oh, we're getting near the end now. I can actually see the end. We have to get to what? Here. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's going to be a long video, there's a lot of Pokemon to cover. Heatmore's like an fire anti-air Pokemon. I think it looks cool, but not super cool. I'm going to stick him about here. I think his look is a bit weird, to be quite honest. So it just doesn't quite gel with it, but it's decent. It's a decent design, a decent Pokemon, but I can't place him in S. Duran, I think, is a cool little metal Ant. I wish it had another stage, which prevents me from putting it higher. But I'm going to put him here. I'm going to put him above Zoroark, because I do actually use him. Right, Hydreigon. I think Dino is great A tier. I think he deserves to be relatively high. And then Zweilous is my favourite Z-letter Pokemon. I mean, there's not many Z-letter Pokemon, so it's not that much of a competition. But he's really cool. Hydreigon is really awesome. Seems weird that he doesn't go higher, but honestly, there's just so many good Pokemon, fantastic Pokemon for this generation that you know, it's kind of hard to place him higher. Okay. And I like him more than Vanillish. So I'll place him about there. That seems about right. Okay, Larvesta, I don't like the look of. I think he's a B rank Pokemon. I think he's fine, but he's just not for me. However, Volcarona is super cool. He's gonna go in S. Where are you? Volcarona. Again, there's so much competition. I mean, yeah. I think here. He's really cool. I like the typing Fire Bug. Big fan of bug Pokemon. But there's so many bangers that... Yeah, he's on the first line of S ranks, but I'm not really sure if he's going to stay there. There's so many bangers in this generation. Actually, looking at the remaining Pokemon, he probably is going to stay there. But still, it's a respectable place for a badass Pokemon. Right, now we get into the legendaries. I've mentioned it before, but I don't really use legendaries. To be honest, I don't get particularly excited about them. So a lot of these are based on design more than anything, rather than how much I use them, because I don't use like any of them. And the Gen 5 legendaries, there's a lot of them. There's loads of them. And their quality, I think, in terms of design, is mixed. I think Cobalion is an A rank. He's kind of a neat design. Don't love him. Terrakion, I think his design is fine, but I don't love him. I still think he's an A rank Pokemon. Virizion, I think is probably the best out of the three. But not by a huge amount. I'd say that here. Right, the god Pokemon, I say god Pokemon, the dudes in clouds, they have that god look. Tornadus and Thundurus. I think they're both fine. I mean, they look about the same. I would say Tornadus is probably a little bit better, but much. I think I prefer Terrakion over these two. I say don't be insulted if you really like these Pokemon. I just don't gel with legendaries, to be honest. So yeah, got Landorus. Landorus is pretty cool. I've used Landorus before, like in competitive, and I think he's pretty solid. I tend not to use him though because he's a legendary Pokemon, but I would place him a little bit higher for that reason, and I would make him jump Terrakion for that reason. I've got a little bit of nostalgia because I have used him in battle before, but yeah. Right, Reshiram and Zekrom. I don't think they're fantastic. I think they're rather forgettable designs. They're not like Palkia and Dialga from Gen 4, where you can at least remember what they look like. I think I just remember these as being amorphous shapes. I don't think they're terrible Pokemon, and I have used them before in-game. And they're alright, but I'm going to place them in B. Yeah, I'm going to place them here. I like the black one maybe a tiny bit more. I think they kind of look very similar, to be honest. Oh yeah, we've got the other one. I don't remember the name of it. I do think it looks cooler though. I'm going to stick it in A. I'll stick it right at the bottom of there. I do think it looks cooler. It's got a bit more of a distinctive shape. I don't remember the name of it though, so I can't place it particularly high. But yeah. Genesect. Genesect is really cool. I think in terms of... It's really cool. It looks like a site. It reminds me of something from Robocop. It reminds me of... I can't remember the name of it because I think it's just a bunch of numbers from what I remember. You know the big fucking robot thing from Robocop that kills everyone? It reminds me of that. It looks like something that's been sent from the future to eliminate everyone. I think it's an awesome design, and if I had the opportunity to use it more and it wasn't like one of those Pokemon that I think you don't get until like the post game, like it's difficult to get. I think I would probably use it. So much so I'm going to put it in S. I think it's a fantastic design. I'm going to stick it below these two because those two I actually use, whereas Genesect I would want to use but I haven't really had much of an opportunity. I've just realised these are forms as well, but they're at the back, so okay. And that's a form. And that's a form, and that's a form. Cool. Oh, there's no way I've put her in the forms, and she isn't a form. And Keldeo as well. I think I've confused Keldeo with one of the other legendary things. Keldeo is cool. Right, Keldeo, even though I mistook him for one of the other legendaries, which one did I mistake him for? I don't remember now. I do think he's a really cool looking legendary. I think he's one of the best legendaries in terms of looks from this generation. I'd say middle of A is pretty cool. Or higher A, I suppose. I'd stick him about there. Pretty high A. That's pretty respectable. Yeah. And Meloetta. I think she's a cool design. Never ever used her. I would put her... Oh, I think I confused Keldeo with like another form for this one. I don't know, around here or so is fine. Yeah. Again, based on luck. Sorry if you really like these legendaries. As I say, it's just a case of I just don't use legendaries, so that's how the cookies crumble. So yeah, actually, considering there's so many Pokemon, that's not too bad. I mean, you've got the Simmies and like the Seaman down below. You've got some others which I don't like for varying reasons in C, which I don't think are bad, but they just don't appeal to me. And then everyone else is like B and above. And this A is really full. But S is surprisingly full. I think S is the fullest I've seen it. Maybe even more than Gen 2. I mean, there are a lot more Pokemon than Gen 2, but still, there are some bangers. Look at... And Vanillux is still right at the top. Damn, Vanillux is my favourite from this generation. I really didn't expect that, to be honest. The interesting things about these ranking ones is actually seeing them side by side and sticking them together. It can create some nice surprises. But I'm happy with that top 5. Vanillux, Cofagrigus, Emolga, B-Sharp, and Sigilif. Those are 5 banging Pokemon, and those are 5 Pokemon I use like a lot. Whether it's in Gen 5 or like in future ones, if there's one of those 5 Pokemon, it probably will at least temporarily be on my team. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. But are you happy with it? Do you have any of my S ranks in D tier? I can imagine some people might have Vanillux in there, but that's fine, I don't care. Do you have any of my like F ranks in S tier? Let me know. Let me know your top Pokemon from this generation as well, and what you think about the generation as a whole. I say a lot of people are a bit iffy about it, just purely because of the fact that it's like a lot of Pokemon are very comparable to like say Generation 1 counterparts. I think that rubs people up the wrong way. Like how Buffon is basically Tauros with an afro. I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it's a cool generation, and I like the idea of coming up with a new deck. I'd say it's a shame they didn't do that, going forward. But I suppose coming up with 150 new Pokemon each generation is probably going to be quite difficult. But I suppose like the future generations are probably between 70 and 100. I think they border around 70 for now, so I don't think it's necessarily a problem. They're still coming up with a lot of Pokemon. And I even think just creating like 100 Pokemon would probably be sufficient. Because a lot of Pokemon are sticking like the end game, and what they could do is in like the post game and stuff is just take a variety of older Pokemon like they did in Gen 5. But hey, anyway, I will see you tomorrow for Gen 6, Kalos, the generation I only played through once. I'm familiar with a lot of the Pokemon from that generation though, because obviously they've turned up again. But I only played through Kalos one time. I did play Kalos a lot because that's when I started playing competitive Pokemon, which is another reason why I'm quite familiar with that generation. But the actual story I only played through one time, so my affinity for it is rather mixed. I do think it's a decent game, and I think it has one of the better rosters from what I remember. But we'll see tomorrow. Stay tuned, and I'll see you then. Bye, folks.